Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the Back Office Show. Look, this is a blast from the past. This is my childhood TRS 80 and I recently retrieved it from a loft, my parents' loft, and it's in pretty rough condition. It's missing some parts like this flap on the back. The monitor's seen better days and it doesn't have a power supply. And although I sort of turned over the loft to find the power supply, you know, where I knew it definitely is, unfortunately it wasn't. So I'm waiting for my eBay searching to be fruitful on that one. But something that happened, my wife was giving it a wipe over, and for whatever reason the space bar split at the end here, and I've sort of popped it off, and I noticed these bits sort of flopping around too, so I'm not really sure when this sort of snapped. But I actually threw the parts inside. I want to see if I can retrieve them. They were in here. I can hear them knocking around. Oop, there's one of the plastic catches from that keyboard overlay, so we might glue that back on. Going to put that somewhere safe. We definitely don't want to lose that. Come on. As you can hear, there's part of the keyboard. And the other part just dropped out. Excellent. So I'm going to put the TRS 80 aside. Let's have a look, see what we can do with the bits that remain. So we have a pretty filthy, it's all pretty filthy. It's been up in a dusty loft for a while. So simply, the end has fatigued and sheared off. I think that's the best way of explaining it. There's a little crack in there, but I think we can do a pretty good repair on that. It's just a case of applying some araldite type glue. I think I'm going to try and bond that way, and then we'll slip this in. Yeah, they don't actually, they're not like a massively retained thing, they are just reasonably loose in there. So that would be my first pass at this, and if I can't achieve adhesion, then I'll have to try something a little bit more violent. First things first though, before you do any aralditing, you're going to want your whole thing to be clean. So I'm going to use some of this IPA alcohol I've just got next to me. Get a generous dollop of that on here, just because we know how bad a state this is in. Just looking at it, it doesn't seem to matter which way around this goes, so I'm just going to remove the other metal retracting piece and just put those in our pot. What I suspect I'll do though, when I repair that, I'll probably fit that metal piece back in before the glue's dry. I'm going to see if there's a way I can hold all those pieces together, because I think I'll get a better join, better structural strength if the metal retention clip, it's not, well, yeah, I suppose it is a retention clip, stops the keyboard from falling off, forms part of the structure, so it's like a stressed cross member. Ooh, this is feeling a bit warm on the old fingers. Wonderful. Let's go with the old araldite. So I've got this handy piece of paper. It's just a piece of instructions for something. I never throw out a good thick piece of paper. You never know when it's going to come in handy. And it nearly always is handy when you're doing resining, because you need something to squoze it on. And we don't need too much, of course. I've used about 20 times as much as I need. Right there. What shall we use today as a mixing implement? I think, because this is a sensitive piece of equipment, we'll use the little flathead micro screwdriver. So I don't know if many of you have had TRS 80s, but there seems to be a few of them. But when you look on eBay in the usual places, it seems to be this colour model or the portable. So I think this one might be a Mark 1. I'm guessing it's an early one looking at it. And yeah, they just seem to be a bit rare. Not quite as popular as the other ones. The really interesting thing, when we get to, I'll show you the monitor. The monitor's got a lot of kind of knackedy looking damage. But the funny thing about the monitor is it was clearly, and you look at the plastics of it, just a repurposed television, maybe a black and white television. And it always had this rattly front panel. It's really distinctive. I'll never forget this sort of rattly front panel. And it's still rattly after all these years. It's something satisfying about having, just remembering that one thing and then being able to sort of experience it again after you've completely forgotten about it. Right, so let's get this all aligned. I'm just seeing if it even makes sense to align it on the bench. It does. And if we have a heavy thing, like our IPA can here, and something else pushing that, I think it's going to have plenty of force on there. Although doing it that way does mean I can't get my metal thing in. So we're just going to have to be very careful with our adhesive. Just applying it only to the edges. And no matter how little you apply here, I can guarantee you it's going to be way too much. When you put the old other half on, it's just going to splurge everywhere. But that's part of the course. So let's see if we can get this on. So you've got a little bit of over splurge now coming out of there. You've got two options. Either you leave it and try to get it off at the end with one, as a sort of a thicker lump that you can try to cut off, or you try to wipe it away. So I still have this IPA soaked rag or tissue. Let's see what that does if I just give it a swipe down. Yeah, that seems to kind of work, so I'm just going to go with that. And exchange fingers. That's pretty good going. And sit now down on something. So it's against the IPA can now, and so I'm just going to look for something equally as weighty. And I've got this video camera. Happens to be lying here. And that, I think, will do the trick nicely. You can always squeeze it a bit tighter though. Right, let's come back and look at this later. Hey kids! A little bit of a weird one, actually. A bit of a, not a disaster, but something odd. I just noticed this. I think it just happened while I was handling this. So this is the one we've repaired. Yeah, and you can see there's a little gap. Fair enough. There's always going to be a little mark there, and unless we want to repaint the keyboard, we're going to leave that there because I don't think these are painted keys. Now, on the other side though, look. I looked and I can see a stress fracture coming. Easy coming. Now I don't know if that was there. I might have to look back in the video just to see if that was there originally, but it's certainly bloody there now. So my only solution for this is that I'm going to take out both of those metal things very carefully, of course, because that one's just been fully repaired. And I'm going to absolutely fill the hell out of this with resin. Big time. I'm going to fill the hole where these go and the other parts and build it up so it's just got a big old resin lump in there, because these ends are just going to be so weak otherwise and fall off, and I don't fancy having to literally manufacture a whole new spacebar out of plastic or wood or something. So that's what I'm going to do, and so when we meet back here, that will be done. I didn't want to do this, but I had to dismantle the whole TRS 80 itself because this keyboard has these metal bits here. You might just see this bar, and I think it was designed that you'd have to, of course, fit the space bar over those metal bits towards the end of the whole operation, which I can't do. So I've taken the lid off, and there's about 200 different size screws, and got to the keyboard, and it's looking in pretty good nick. I have to admit, I've given it a quick wipe. It was a bit dusty, but now it's pretty dust free. And our key, although it has a little bit of resin still on it, I don't really want to mess with right now. I'll try to sort of clean this up after it's sort of congealed properly, fully hardened, because it's still pretty soft. And you can see the two ends, which I filled up and then spilled over into the other side, and the metal parts are all glued in now. Shouldn't go anywhere. So I'm going to attempt to sort of fit this back now. So that's how it goes. I'm going to have to spring. This is the tricky part here. You can see these metal tangs. I'm not really sure which hole they were designed to go in either on this spacebar. I'm going to just go through the first one. Let's see how that fares. Yeah, that seems to be okay, but I'm going to have to bend one now. And to do that, I'm going to use my side cutters as pliers. I'm going to just put this down so I can bend that in, and then hopefully, in fact, if you lift the key off the actual switch slightly, it gives you a lot more room and you don't have to bend it nearly so far. There, that's on. Good. I think we're good to go here. Just one other thing I noticed, this is Z key. It seems to be lower than the rest. You can see it's lower than the X there next to it. And if you pop the lid, you can see something bad has happened to it in the past, because if you take off one of the other keys like this, oh, it's all so much more difficult now the space key's back. There, you can see in there it does look quite a bit different there. Actually, the X key there itself has a little bit of a crack going on, so it's all sort of perishing. Got to be careful. But you can see there's sort of 4 contacts here. When you push down, see how the switch closes? It's quite a nice design actually. It's sort of like a little switch, but then when you do this one, it does the same, but it's just obviously got bent up in the past, and the sort of keycap, you can sort of feel it through the keycap. I'm just looking, crikey, a lot of these pins are all bent up too. What's gone on here? Doesn't seem likely we're going to be able to restore that, but let's just, for whatever reason, sits at that ever slightly bit low. I mean, I'll put that where the X is. Now, it's definitely something to do with the key mechanism. We'll have one last go on this. Yeah, they don't seem to be preventing it. Anywho, I think sometimes you've got to pick your battles. This is not one worth fighting over. Just got to be careful that X key in the future doesn't fall out by itself. So there you go. That's how you can repair the cracks on the end of a TRS 80 keyboard, of which I've just Googled, and doesn't seem to be any guides on that exist. So hopefully you found your way to this one and it's helped you out. Interestingly enough, just as a quick tidbit, this whole mechanism here is how your anti-roll bar on your car works. So when your suspension on your left hand side of your car goes down, you actually have one of these ARBs that will pull the right hand side of your car down to stop the whole body rolling like a crazy roller coaster. There, that's what you get for free on the back office. As ever guys, thank you for watching. Next!